So today somebody asked me, Mike, why should I buy your protocol when I could just work on my emotional issues that's putting my gut in and out of overdrive with my therapist? And I said, hey, that's a great question. Let's talk about it. And so I first asked them, how long you been seeing this therapist? And they're like, oh, about 5 years. And I've been encouraging this therapist for the past year to focus on this one thing in my life that's really stressing me out that I think is putting my gut in and out of overdrive. And I said, okay, great. So if you're asking me this question, then you're still having symptoms. So just there, your therapist isn't resolving your gut health issues, and I wouldn't expect them to. Even the best therapist in the world who could, fix your emotional issues. Let's say you have 10 things stressing you out. Only one of those things is putting your gut in and out of overdrive. And only you can see it. Even if your therapist was to shadow you all day long, even if I were to shadow you all day long, the only person that can make the connection and break the connection in your mind to stop putting your gut in and out of overdrive is you. We can say things to help provoke that thought or to provoke you accessing that memory that put your gut into overdrive and changing that memory. For a lot of you, it's buried in the subconscious. And the exercises that I made on these worksheets, I made them with an NLP expert and hypnosis expert to slowly yank up these memories so that you can alter them. And then it stops putting your gut in and out of overdrive. We're literally one thought away, one aha moment away from stopping putting our gut into overdrive. When we first learned German New Medicine, the popular thing to believe, and I believed it for a very long time too, is that I need to come to peace with this conflict in order to fully get better, consciously. And that's not always the case. A lot of the times we're subconsciously haunted by it, and your triggers, you might not even get an emotion. So just for an example, one of my triggers was having food, any food on, so if I was at the table eating and I only ate 75% of my food and I left the 25% there, if I didn't eat it and left, I would get the urge to go to the bathroom. And it took me a long time to find this trigger. I felt maybe a hint. On a scale from 1 to 10, I maybe felt a 1 or a 2 on the guilt range. And I have to go to the bathroom. And then one day I realized, oh my God, this is from childhood where my parents would force me to eat all my foods. And I want to get rid of this crap on the plate, but I can't. And then the subconscious mind goes, I'll help you. I'll help you with diarrhea right here. I'm your guy. Just making that realization stopped me having diarrhea after almost every single meal. Because every single meal I had something left on my plate. So that's 3 times a day, 3 or 4 times, 2 to 4 times a day, I was getting diarrhea. Instantly gone. And I didn't need therapy. It was just, it's therapy in some sense, but it was just an aha moment. One thing, it depends. Psychologists all practice things very differently. I remember when I was doing research for this, I was very disappointed in the stuff that I was reading. I was like, just something's not adding up with how they're talking. It doesn't make sense. And I was like, okay, well, let's get down to the basics. What is an emotion? And I would look in psychological dictionaries and psychiatrist dictionaries, the School of Psychiatry dictionary for what an emotion was. And I was like, no, that's not an emotion. That makes no sense. It's when you feel happy or sad. That's not an emotion. You're describing an emotion. I'm like, what is it? What is its biological purpose? Everything that we do, everything, the only reason you're watching this video right now is because you think I can increase your survival. If you're feeling angry right now, then you think I'm hurting your survival. If you feel fearful right now, somewhere in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm just so helpless. There's just no hope I'm getting better. I'm going to feel sad and depressed. Our emotions, they move us to go towards things that increase our survival, deal with things that hurt our survival, and that's all they are. And instead, we've kind of, with our modern society, we've turned them into ghosts that we're afraid of our own feelings. And it just becomes like we're chasing our tails over and over and over again. It's amazing how much anxiety leaves your body when you actually know what your brain is doing. All your brain is doing, I explain this in much more detail. How are you going to learn a language if you don't know the alphabet? How are you going to fix your emotions if you don't know what an emotion is? It's not an emotional problem. A lot of the times what's triggering your symptoms, you do not feel an emotion on a conscious level at all. And I share with you the basics inside this. Yeah, I share the basics of how your mind works, what emotions are, the basics of how a traumatized mind operates, which is, not common knowledge. And I just don't know how you would get better without that knowledge inside your head. And even Dr. Hammer would have said that. I mean, half of his therapy was educating the person. A lot of fear and negative emotions come from being helpless. But if you're educated, you're empowered and you're no longer helpless. And that's what I aim to do with this course, is educate a person so they feel empowered and they're not dependent on anybody except themselves. And seeing therapists is like $100, $200 a session. That adds up pretty fast. This is a one-time investment you are going to use every single day for the rest of your life. And when you're doing therapy with somebody, you can better guide them and guide the conversation to help your symptoms. But you'll be surprised at how many of your symptoms are triggered from things that don't even stir up an emotion in you.